School that has been facing legal action over a ban on pupils praying in the playground. The news has hit the headlines after it emerged there'd been a High Court legal case and that the school involved, well, a woman already well known to many of us, the country's strictest head teacher, as she's been billed, Katharine Birbalsingh, the founder and head teacher of Michaela Community School, also former chair of the Social Mobility Commission. And I'm delighted to say she joins us right now here on Talk TV in her first broadcast interview on this issue. Good morning to you, Katharine.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is an incredible story. Now, the story sort of hit the headlines before we knew it was the Michaela School that was involved, that there was this legal action brought by a female Muslim pupil who could only be known by the initials TTT against a ban on prayer at her school. Media fought to find out which the school was. Your school, of course, often in the news over you being, the country's strictest head teacher, always outspoken on a lot of key issues that I know my audience and I care an awful lot about. But this is a rather more complicated story than a lot of the media would suggest. We've got a bit of time here. Tell us what has actually happened at the school and how you've got into a situation where we've got this incredibly expensive, incredibly stressful legal case with the pupil and the school, and even leading to death threats, bricks thrown through teachers' windows, teachers afraid to come to school on their own because of these death threats. What is actually going on and how did it start, Katharine?
Yeah, well, and it's important to say that there was a media ban on reporting this before that we fought very hard to keep because of the worries around the danger that some of us might be in if it were the case that the media could report on it. The judge decided to lift the media ban, and so that's why I'm now out in the public trying to defend why it is that we decided to take that decision. For 8 years, we never had any prayer at the school, so the children were always allowed.
It's an openly secular school. You're not a faith school of any kind.
Yes, and of course people can pray in their head, but we're really talking about prayer rituals here. And for 8 years, nobody's ever prayed. It's always been the case that we haven't had prayer rooms, and we make that very clear to all of the families who come to the school, and we do that right at the start. We make all sorts of things clear about us because we're a different kind of school. So we explain to the families that there's family lunch where the children all share the same food together. We explain how there are silent corridors where they don't talk to each other. They just say morning miss, morning sir, and so on. We explain how we have very high standards, which will result in them being in detention quite a lot. And there are all sorts of things. We also explain that we don't have a prayer room. And, we opened in 2014 with 30% of our population being Muslim. We have since grown that to 50% of our population being Muslim. So clearly the Muslim families are happy with the situation. And while they would prefer a prayer room, they decide, you know what, we're going to take it.
What is the reason why you wouldn't have a prayer room? Bearing in mind, of course, different religions have different rituals around prayer.
Yes. So the building is not a typical school building. It's really an office block. We have very small corridors. We have 7 floors instead of 2. And combine that with our ethos, which is one of being super strict, and our silent corridors, also our family lunch, which requires supervision of all of the staff. First of all, the idea of one prayer room, there are 350 children who are Muslim, so clearly we would need several prayer rooms. Well, we can't give up several prayer rooms because we just don't have the space, because it's already difficult enough to make this building work with the classrooms. So it would mean allowing all of the classrooms to be open and for the children to roam as they like to find a room where they might like to pray. We would have to remove the bags from the rooms that are currently in there. The children would have to carry their coats and bags with them, which they don't do in the school. We would have to get rid of our silent corridors, and we would probably have to get rid of our family lunch as well, because the structure of our ethos and system is such that it just can't work with us having lots of
it's completely practical, and this wasn't really an issue at all. And then suddenly it changed. One girl decided she wanted to pray in the playground.
Yes, we have always allowed prayer in the yard. So for people who say we don't like prayer, well, that's not true. We always said that it could happen in the yard. It just didn't happen for 8 years. And you know, and my own background is very diverse. I have had a Muslim grandmother. You know, it's not. This has nothing to do with disliking Islam. It's just about making our school work within the confines of our ethos. And so children prayed. It was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But then a whole campaign started online on social media, campaigning for a prayer room. And I presume maybe people outside saw us through the gates. I don't know. This campaign resulted in thousands of signatures, then resulted in death threats towards us. One of my Black teachers had the worst kind of racism, calling her a monkey, the N-word, the C-word. It was just horrible, horrible racism sent to the school and to her. One teacher had an attempted break into her flat at home. One teacher had a brick through her window. We had bottles thrown into the yard. So all of this intimidation and aggression and so on was coming from outside. Within the school, though, it was interesting because when they prayed, more and more children started praying over days. And what happened was, this was during Ramadan, and some of the Muslim children don't want to fast during Ramadan. Some of them don't want to pray. Some of them don't necessarily wear a hijab. And what happened was there was a lot of pressure put on those children suddenly, which was never there before, but a lot of pressure was put on them to either pray. They would stand by the break food table and stop Muslim children from eating when they wanted to eat. One girl dropped out of the choir because music was haram. One girl started wearing a hijab because, you know, she needed to cover her hair.
Pressure basically to, if you're really a Muslim, you're a proper Muslim, a devout Muslim, you will do these things. Whereas, again, their parents have chosen to send them to a secular school, and these children are able to follow their religion as they choose as an individual. And now there's peer pressure to basically to be a certain kind of Muslim.
And the happy, lovely, joyful place that our school is changed radically. And we saw that change in the culture. So there was the change in the culture within the school walls, but then there was the social media campaign, which resulted in death threats. We had a bomb threat. Police had to come and search the school. We had police outside all of the time. We had to hire security. It put everyone's lives in danger. So the governors rightly took the decision, in my opinion, to ban prayer rituals happening in the yard. So we have been taken to court for us to have prayer rooms on the inside of the building, because I think it's recognized that it puts us in danger if we're outside the building. But physically, that just can't happen. We would have to change our entire ethos. And so then the question becomes, is it right for a school to have to change their whole ethos? Because we would no longer be Michaela. We would become a normal school. And I don't think that's right, because I love our school the way that it is. And our multicultural intake, multiracial intake is, look, in order for us to work here together in harmony, for children to be friends with each other across racial and religious divides, it's necessary for some of the groups to sacrifice in certain ways. So the Jehovah's Witnesses, they are upset that we have Macbeth as our set text at GCSE, but they put up with it. There are Hindu families that have complained about the fact that eggs touch the plates at lunch, and should they have separate plates? I'm unwilling to divide children according to race and religion, so I have said no. There are Christian families who have complained about our GCSE revision sessions being on Sundays. We have all of these different groups that we need to have getting on with each other and being friends with each other. And that is one of the things, the thing I'm most proud of, I've always said this, is that while we get the top Progress 8 in the country, we're the top school, right? Last 2 years, we've been the top secondary school in the country. I've always said the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that the children are so lovely, who they are, you know? And that is because we very much teach them to sacrifice when necessary in order for the betterment of the whole.
Yeah, to compromise.
So
we used to do this as the norm, as opposed to, I don't like this, I'm offended, so everyone else has to change because of me. And again, You're the head teacher. They know what they signed up to. I mean, if they didn't, wow, I mean, they've been living under a rock for quite a long time. So again, it's people going somewhere.
Well, folks, this case is both stunning and alarming and is going to have major, major consequences going forward for Great Britain. Because here you have a secular school, the top school in the nation, with around 700 students. It's been in existence, they said, since 2014, and he said for 8 years, perfectly running fine, until one girl, Muslim girl, and her family or whatever decides that they're going to sue so that she can have a place to pray. Now, here's what's going to happen. If this is going to the Supreme Court, if they can force a secular school to allow for prayer in the rooms, you know what's going to happen, folks? That's going to send shockwaves throughout the school systems. Everybody is going to demand a piece of this right now. And then what is the reason then? What happens if you have in terms of for secular school, if you have in terms of just for prayers, what's next? What's the next ask going to be? Right? What's the next ask going to be? Okay, we got prayer. What's the next one going to be? Maybe we need a separate, complete separate room for our prayers. What's the next ask going to be? The teaching of the religion in the schools. Then, right? Now you got everybody coming out. She said, Jehovah Witnesses, they're upset because they can't get some of the things they want. The Christian population in her school, they're upset because there's something that they're doing that they don't like. She talked about that the whole thing of Michaela School was that, the thing of compromise, community coming together. And those community members, those thugs, those terrorists that are throwing bricks, throwing bottles, the death threats, all of that going on, this is coming, it's not coming from the it's not coming from the white population, is it? Or from the black population, is it? Or from the Hispanic population, anything else? No, it's coming from what? Probably most of these immigrant families and they're and Muslim. And these and they're the ones that are causing this. And then as Katharine said in the piece, where initially they allowed it in the yards, but then it got to the point where now there's bullying going on. There's coerciveness going on within the Muslim student population, sort of shaming the others for not participating, preventing them during the month of Ramadan from eating at the food table. What the hell is this going on? Who the hell is teaching the kids this kind of crap? One girl left because she couldn't go into choir because they said that music is, a bad thing. One girl, decides to put on a burqa, probably out of, being bullied. Where's the anti-bullying squad that's supposed to be happening here? Are they letting this thing go because of a minority situation of a religious sect? Is that what's happening? That needs to stop. And she saw this happening and she said, you know what? That's it. It's a secular school. It's not a religious school. These parents knew exactly what they're doing inside on the dotted line. My thing would be is it would teach that the parents there, if they don't like it, there's other private schools you can send to. There's other secular schools you can send them to. There's Muslim schools you can send it to. Private schools, just like parents do, they'll send them to it. I'm sure there's Jehovah Witness schools there. There's Christian schools there. There's Jewish schools there. There's a whole bunch of alternatives that can be done. If you don't like it, you knew the rules when you signed in. You don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Anyways, let's get back to the video. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective. What happens when things like this collide? Religion, prayer, Supreme Court, secular schools, private schools, religious schools, Katharine Birbalsingh. they all come crashing together. Let's get back to more of the interview right now.
But there's also a story that emerged over the weekend that the girl involved, and she can't be named, and quite rightly, she's a child, who pushed this case, funded by legal aid, no doubt. It's going to be huge cost for this case. But that actually she brought this case around the same time that she was suspended from school for threatening to stab another pupil at the school. Is that correct?
Well, I don't want to go into the details of the case on that level. I don't really talk about
Is
that.
that completely untrue? No.
I wouldn't want.
Okay, but there may be other reasons why this is brought. Can I just ask, how is the school funding that legal action? And I love you for standing up for it. I love you not giving in and actually standing your ground. Such an important part of what you're.
So wonderful now. That Muslim girl who brought the lawsuit threatened to stab another student, probably another Muslim student, because her parents are probably Islamist parents. And this type of crap that they're putting into their daughter's head. And so she was suspended. And right now, you know that that's absolutely true. That's exactly what happened. Otherwise, Katharine would have said, no, that's absolutely not true. That's just a story that's made up. Her keeping silent tells you that that is absolutely true.
School stands for. And I want a Katharine Birbalsingh running a Michaela School in every local neighbourhood. I mean, it would transform our country. But how are you actually funding that? Are people donating? What's the deal there?
Well, we have insurance, so the majority is covered by insurance, so we're okay. But it's less the financial stress. It's the stress around the media. It's the stress around people's lives being in danger that makes this so difficult. I know that there was a whole conversation around Ruth Perry, the head teacher who committed suicide with the Ofsted visit. And, the thing is, I don't think it's unreasonable for Ofsted to visit schools.
And they're
but
restarting inspections today. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But I do think it's unreasonable for head teachers to be put under this kind of stress that I'm under. Yeah. And all we're trying to do is run a school. I'm trying to run a school according to the ethos that we've got that works, that has worked for 10 years, where we have been, where we're a very happy place here, with our Muslim families and all our other families being very happy together.
Where are the other Muslim families coming out against this? Where are the other Muslim families coming out? That's what I'd like to ask.
With every single family before they join the school to be clear with them on what they're signing up for. Yeah. For exactly this reason. They all come for these meetings, and I talk to all of them, and I run through all the things that make us different, because you may not want us. And some people think, I don't want silent corridors. And so they go off somewhere else. Yeah. And you know what? If you think I really want a prayer room, well, there's lots of schools that provide. But
exactly, there are so many different faith schools. I don't approve of faith schools anyway. I think all schools should be mixed faith and mixed ethnicity. I think dividing. I mean, how well has that worked out? Dividing people by their religion. Northern Ireland will tell you exactly how well that works out. But I mean, in terms of, can I ask you about the culture wars? I mean, Keir Starmer's accusing the Tories of stoking the culture wars. You originally, you worked in a central London school, and you spoke at Labour Party conference, Tory Party conference, and they were hounded out of the school for actually speaking up about what is effectively a culture war issue that has been going on in our schools, the ideology, trans ideology, the woke ideology. Do you think that Keir Starmer's right, that this is just being stoked by the Tories, or is it something we need to be talking about?
Well, I think some of us are talking about these issues, and I think it's important that we do talk about them. I don't understand this idea that that things have not changed. I mean, obviously, in the last 10 years, things have changed quite radically in our schools. You can talk about critical race theory, you can talk about decolonization, you can talk about the trans issue, you can talk about adult authority having disappeared. Yep. You can talk about, there's so many different issues that in the last 10 years have come up and are changing schools. And so one might say that's for the better or for the worse, but we should definitely recognize that changes are taking place and that we need to talk about them. And the thing that I think people just don't realize, and I think this is on both the left and the right, is just how important schools are to the future of any country. Both families and schools shape our children. And It's in school where you learn to get on with others who don't look like you. It's at school where you learn the histories and the cultures of other people and how how to be as a person.
Yes.
School isn't just about getting GCSE results. It's about helping our children to be good citizens.
And muddling along with other people who you disagree with, and it's fine. Katharine, you're an absolute hero of mine, and I know for many in our audience as well. It's been amazing talking to you. We're going to let you get back to running the very brilliant Michaela School.
The more I've looked into this case and gone online to just get some more information, she is an absolute wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teacher. Now, she has her detractors, but those detractors, it's all politically motivated, folks. Culture war, it's all socially driven, that they don't like it because the things that she espouses probably you would be taking a look at, from the conservative side. But conservative, it shouldn't be conservative or liberal or right or left or Labor, Tory, Republican, Democrat. It shouldn't be that in schools, but unfortunately everything becomes political. That's the problem. Everything becomes politicized. If one side does now, of course, those of us on the conservative side we have our biases, as does everybody else. But the bottom line we're looking at is that schools should be a place for learning. It shouldn't be a place for experimentation of different things. You need to have your core curriculum of what teaches students how they're going to get further on into society. Some students are going to take the STEM route. They want to go into the sciences, the medicines, those kind of things. Others are going to want to go more into the literature. Others are going to want to go into something more, but you have to teach them how to read, how to write, at least some proficiency in mathematical skills, some proficiency in reading and writing. You've got to be someplace in things out there, how to get along with each other, how to understand that somebody else has an opinion, you might not agree with it and you disagree with it, but you have to allow that opinion to be stated because the same is being heard from the other side. The other person isn't agreeing with your statement either. The ability, to form these, form these children into able-bodied citizens as they grow up, to understand that there has to be a give and take, that there has to be some type of compromise, but that if they have solid, rock-solid principles that they're standing on that are of no harm to anybody else, then they need to understand that those principles are perfectly fine. But when you start to force other people to do other things that they don't want to do, that people know what the rules were when they joined, and now they want to change the rules in the game, that has to be stopped. That has to be basically taught to kids that that's not the way it works in society. At least not in a society that's going to try to get to the better of it. No way. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir, and if you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Check out our other video links above and below. My final thought is always, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.